Hello there, and welcome to day 12 of A Film a Day with me, Jordan Woodley. And I wanted to very briefly talk about Pixar's new animated feature, Soul. Great film. Again, end of review. No. It, like pretty much 90% of Pixar's output, knocks it out of the park. Just to give a very brief summary, Jamie Foxx plays a guy called Joe, who is a wannabe musician, like a gigging musician, but really he's a music teacher who has never let go of his dream of becoming like a full-time professional musician. And just at the point in which he is given his dream opportunity, he dies. At which point, his soul is about to go to the hereafter, but due to some shenanigans, he ends up trying to come back to our world and ends up meeting a as yet to be placed soul who comes from the here before, called 23, who is played by Tina Fey. 22, who is played by Tina Fey, and Pixar shenanigans continue. I really like this film. It's a given. It is a Pixar film. It has a real sense of music. It really appeals to my love of soul music and jazz and, Mobo music, really. So it was always going to sell to me. And of course, Jamie Foxx really puts in a fantastic performance. Really gives Joe this sort of rich character. You really get a sense of his home life and his ambition and his struggle and the struggle that most artists go through. So it's a really human story. The thing that I'm curious about is the fact that it feels like, more than any other Pixar film that I've seen, it feels like two separate films happening in one space. It was directed by Pete Docter, who did Up, Monsters Inc. and Inside Out. Who directed it, of course, he's the chief executive officer of Pixar, so obviously he's overseen a long line of Pixar films, but with Soul compared to those other three, there was always this sense that he knew how to both appeal to younger and older demographics simultaneously, particularly with Inside Out. Inside Out has moments that are so profound and universal that, a child and an adult would watch the same scene and both would be brought to tears for completely different reasons. The Bing Bong departure from Inside Out, particularly, is something that I think just hits a layer upon, multiple layers of character and tragedy. But Soul really does feel like two separate films. You've got the Jamie Foxx story and about him just being a guy who wants to be a successful musician and he thinks that's his spark, his destiny. And then you have the stuff with 22 and the stuff about souls, and you have souls are treated very sort of managerially. It definitely is inspired by that same corporate structure as Monsters Inc. had. And of course that goes into more eccentric, goofy territory and more, otherworldly stuff. But they do feel like very separate films. The stuff like that I connected to was I really like the sequence where he's talking to his barber, and how that conversation plays out, or the conversation with his mother, and how that conversation plays out, and so obviously, someone who is not a child, I really connected to some, mature life lessons that as a struggling artist I myself go through on a daily basis, and the kinds of conversations that I fear having almost. But I can't see a child connecting with that stuff. I feel like the way the film would work is an adult would really connect to sort of the grounded human stuff, and a child would connect to the, Richard Ayoade and the team of soul people sending, trying to organise the souls, and the jokes based around the fact that 22, Tina Fey's character, essentially doesn't want to be birthed into Earth. The way it works is that here before, those are souls that are going to be people but haven't been yet. And so what they try to do is they try to get inspirational figures from history to try and mentor her and show her how wonderful life is, that will inspire her to then want to be brought into life. And there are some really funny jokes involving Mother Teresa has a pretty funny bit, and I'm drawing a blank, but great historical figures, and there's just these almost Family Guy style cutaways that are just they are very well done. But again, it feels like two very separate films, and that's not to say it doesn't strike upon profound understandings of the human condition. It really does. It really looks at the idea of human consciousness and how we perceive ourselves and how other people perceive us, and what we, how we fit in the world and where we think we're being important in contrast to where we're actually being important. It also deals with it, connecting to yesterday's film. It actually does deal with themes of mental health, of feeling like you don't have a place in the world, or you're too strange, or too, and so to some degree, 22, for instance, has her character is that she almost wants to reject the world to prevent the world from rejecting her. And that's dealt with really well. And so it does have this rich, interesting, deep understanding of character and theme. It's just whether it comes together. It's kind of the same problem I had with Up, where Up is a beautiful 15, maybe less actually, short film that I think is perfect. And if you were to, it is probably the greatest animated short film ever made, or maybe short film ever. And then the rest of the film happens, and it's and it's the rest of the film is great, but that first short film that Up had is perfect. And in the same way, I couldn't tell you which part of Soul is better, but they feel like very different. They feel like two films that are happening in tangent with each other, but that may just be my reading. Again, I would love to know what a child thought of some of the scenes and the stuff, in the film. Anyway, but I really did enjoy it. I really did. I think Soul is a sweet film. I think it does have things for everyone. And again, it's just Pixar knocking it out of the park. I think it's a shame it didn't go into theatres, but that's everything now. I will say the same, I'm sure, in a few days about a very different film, but that's a tease for another time. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care now.